In any life, we have highs and lows, light and dark, wins and losses. What happens when we encounter that moment in time when what happens next could change everything? Join us as we step into another person's inspirational moment and see how we can connect their experience to ours. This is Greg Stevens, and you're listening to A Shot of Inspiration.
Due to technical difficulties, video for host Greg Stevens is unavailable. Please enjoy the audio with a placeholder image. Thank you for your understanding.
Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Stevens, and welcome to another episode of A Shot of Inspiration. Today, we have Sam Bennett with us, and Sam is author of a new book that's just come out called The 15-Minute Method. And she's written two previous books. One is Start Right Where You Are, and the other one was Get It Done. And I was introduced to Sam through a gentleman named Chris Williams. He's introduced me to several of our guests. And I love what Sam was going to be talking about because I'm a master certified trainer in getting things done with David Allen. And I don't think you can hear this enough. I used to think organization was something you put over at the side, and some people did here and there, and some people really good at it, others just weren't. And I never found a system that worked for me. And then I finally found and discovered one as I took getting things done. And as Sam and I were talking, she had said something beautiful. She said, everyone has a system, whether it's actually working or not very well is a different question, but everyone has a system. So I'm excited about talking about this today because it's not just going to be about organization. It's about your life. And that's what we want to make sure that we're helping you bridge the gap between what things are costing you and how you could make a little change each day, do something better for your life, your world, and the community around you. Sam, thanks for coming to the show today. Appreciate you being here.
So much for having me, Greg. Hi, everybody.
Yes. Sam, tell us a little about where you came from, because I thought your story was really interesting because you started out in Chicago, then LA, and then several other places, and now you're up in the Northeast. So kind of walk us through a little about your life, and then we'll jump into the topics of your new book.
So yes, as you say, I grew up in Chicago, great town, right in the city. I was an actor. I was one of those kids who put on plays in the living room in the backyard and went to theater camp and did all the shows and went to school for theater and then left Northwestern actually to take a job at the Second City Theater in Chicago, which is the sort of legendary comedy theater, which meant that there's a picture of me from my first wedding. And you can tell it's me because I'm the one in the big white dress, but it's all our work friends. And so it's me and my then husband and Steve Carell and Stephen Colbert and Amy Sedaris and Jim Belushi and Nia Vardalos and Ian Gomez and everybody. I toured with Adam McKay and Rachel Dratch and Horatio Sands, and we were all just kids together doing shows.
Grew up together, yeah.
We grew up together, but it was a wonderful training ground, and it taught me so much about life. And I'll just interrupt myself here to say, parents, hello, if you have a child who is expressing an interest in pursuing a career in the arts, don't panic. It's great news, especially in the performing arts, because first of all, the chances that they will actually go on to a career in the performing arts is nominal. Most people get over it. I didn't, but most people get over it. But what they learn about being able to stand up in front of a room and speak, which is frankly a skill most people don't have, that alone is amazing. What they learn about story, what they learn about energy, what they learn about give and take, what they learn about teamwork, right? In the theater, we call it ensemble. In business world, we call it teamwork. What we learn about emotional intelligence and history and language and learning to deal with difficult people and difficult situations and seeing things all the way through. Really, the life lessons are infinitely applicable and so valuable. So don't discourage your child.
I'd also say even the competition in it is something that is difficult because you got to do a gut check. You got to look at what you're doing. And we all have those insecurities that face us. And those insecurities get in the way of anything that we do.
That's right. That's right. And you learn not to take no so personally because you hear no a lot.
Hopefully you do. Yeah.
And you start to understand that other actors are not your competition.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are your
exactly.
brothers and sisters. They are your team. They're your somebody. Today, somebody's going to get the job. Tomorrow, it used to be me and Jane Lynch and four other people at every single audition in Chicago, and Jane would book it, and that was it.
That's how it
That's
went.
how I didn't feel in competition with Jane. I was just like,
Right.
oh, today it was her turn. Maybe later it'll be my turn. I love Jane, and she should totally be hired. She's amazing. So I had one of those careers in Chicago, and then later I moved to Los Angeles. That went well enough that you didn't want to give up on it. I had an agent. I was on television. I was doing radio dramas. I was doing with a lot of celebrities. And it was really cool, which also meant that I had a grillion jobs and gigs and projects and shows and auditions and producing and running around all over town 24 hours a day because the acting that I was doing, while very gratifying, most of it did not pay me enough to live on.
Right.
So this is another thing we learn, right? That a person can be very successful and still not really have any of the trappings of success.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And along the way, I just got really interested in this question of how do highly creative people make decisions? When you are good at a lot of things, and I've always used the phrase highly creative just because that's how I thought of it, but I'm talking about people who have a lot of ideas, overthinkers, people who have a lot of talents and skills. We talk about neurodiversity now. We talk about spectrum. There's a lot more language in the culture now to talk about it than when I was started in the year 2000, teaching a workshop in a church basement in Van Nuys, California, to maybe 11 people. Because when there's no right way, how do you know what to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Because
there's no
there's no
manual
right way.
for it. Yeah.
There's no right way to be an actor. There's no right way to have a podcast. There's no right way to be a boss. There's no right way to be a teacher or a friend or a lover or a spouse or a parent. There's just your way.
Right.
So it's a little trick of my brain that I am able to go, well, how would I figure that out? And I started to devise these worksheets and exercises because it's not like I've got some incredible way and everybody should do things my way.
Right.
But what I have are some incredible ways for you to figure out what your way is.
Good.
And yeah, and after a while, it really started to take over, and then I turned it into a business, knowing nothing about business, nothing.
But
But
you
I made it.
learn by doing it. That's, yeah.
You learn pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. If you just go for it, you stop doubting and because there's no time to doubt. You just have to get into action. And it's
Well, and
not
rent
going to
had to be
happen
paid.
unless you get out there and do it.
Exactly. The rent had to be paid. I didn't have time to play around with this. I didn't have a 401k or some independent funding or seed money or venture capital or anything. I just
Right.
had bills.
Yeah.
And
And
that was my big motivation.
but I love how it's all led you to write the books, to do what you're doing now, to get out and use what you've learned along the way to actually show people the struggle, how to do it, practice the work yourself. That's the biggest thing. All the knowledge in the world doesn't help if you're not actually doing it. And I love that. Get it done. What is it? Kind of me. I need to do it.
Yeah,
So I find that over and over. I've done so much and there's much more I want to do, but I find the things I haven't gotten done, I haven't done them. There's just, you got to put one foot in front of the other and get in that. And I think that's
exactly.
what you're talking about in the 15-minute method is about getting that first step. They talk about atomic habits that just try it, just that little increment. And if anyone here hears anything today, I really want you to get that. I think that's what the real message is. Take that first step.
That's right.
Yeah.
90% of what you need to learn, you will learn by doing.
Yeah.
And because we live in this information age or post-information age, and there's so much information out there, I see so many people who spend a lot of time learning and studying and going to workshops and reading books, but never doing anything.
Yeah.
And then they're overwhelmed. Then they have this burden of knowledge, right? They know too much, but they haven't done enough.
It's interesting. I just read a book called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership.
Mm.
And as I read it, this is everything, even the getting things done. They even talk about that in there, crucial conversations, all of those things, all into one book, everything. And I looked at it and went, wow, now I can just go and relax. If I want to point anyone toward knowledge, there it is. You want application and really will need to work on it, come talk to me. Because that's where it really comes in. And we all need development, coach, insight. And so you have to have that awareness first, though. I've got to do something.
And that's really
Yeah.
what 15-minute method is, we get everything done for everybody else all day long. And somehow the things that we know would really make a difference to us even make it on the list. It
Right.
stays in a drawer. It stays a maybe. It stays a well when I get to it. It stays maybe after the kids go to, maybe after the summer, after this. And I want to flip that on its head because that's just wrong.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's wrong because you're walking around exhausted and stressed out all the time. That's symptom number one. You
Right.
feel exhausted and stressed out. Symptom number two, you are not moving forward on the things that you know would really make a difference to you. My red hot suggestion here is to take 15 minutes a day, every single day, to spend on something that matters to you. And really, it can be anything. I hear from people all the time. It's, oh, I've been writing my book. Oh, I've been stretching. Oh, I've been dancing. Oh, I picked up the guitar for the first time in 10 years. Oh, I've been doing my prayer and meditation work. I sat out in the garden for 15 minutes and just felt the sun on my face. I reached out to an old friend. I updated my LinkedIn, like whatever. And I don't want it to be the things on your to-do list.
Right.
That stuff will happen or it won't, right? I don't want you catching up for 15 minutes. Sure, maybe some other 15 minutes, but not this 15 minutes. This 15 minutes is for you to light yourself up again, to remember how unique and special you are, to hear your own voice. The wonderful thing about 15 minutes is that it hopscotches right over your perfectionism. It's 15 minutes. How perfect is it going to be? And you're going to do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. So we start to see that these little teeny tiny baby steps start to lead to these quantum leaps.
Right.
And you know that when you move from, like I said, that we were talking about the theoretical understanding of something to the doing of it, it lets the angels know you're serious.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, you run into someone that say, oh, didn't you know I'm a literary agent now? You're working on a book? That's amazing. Tell me more about that. And you're like, what just happened?
Exactly. Yeah. And it does. It happens just like that because you're out doing it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I love the 15 minutes also because I think we talked about this when we met the first time. And a friend of mine, Dan Mormon, a couple of weeks ago, he said something that really landed and resonated. It was like, look back at your life and probably the time you were happiest is the time you were most disciplined.
Mm.
And I thought about it. I looked, I went, wow. You look at it when you really map it on, there's a lot of truth in that. The level of discipline. What I love about that, you give people a discipline for their life. And it's beautiful.
It is. I think that's a really insightful thing to notice and to say and to reflect on. And the fact that discipline and happiness are so interrelated doesn't surprise me because we build respect and esteem with other people by keeping our promises to them. We build self-respect and self-esteem by keeping our promises to ourselves. And when you are keeping your promise to yourself, your happiness will go up. And all of a sudden, all the other things that bother you, that you don't have any control over, it's not like the Trader Joe's parking lot is going to get any less insane. How do they do that? How do they make every single Trader Joe's parking lot a complete mess?
It's where they put the lines.
I consider it an exercise in spiritual development. Every time I pull in, I'm like, this is my opportunity to like
Meditate.
Jesus and just like love humanity. This is going to be frustrating. That stuff, the stuff that's frustrating is always going to be frustrating. The world is always going to be the world, but you have some control over your life and over your time. You may not have infinite control over your life and your time, but you certainly have 15 minutes worth of control.
Yeah. As I read this, Sam, I was also thinking a lot of people will get on this and go, wow, I'm really going to do this. And then they'll miss a day or two. And then they'll start feeling guilty because they're so busy and they'll get in that cycle and they'll put it away. What's your advice for someone who does that?
All right. I got a couple of, I want to parse this out a little bit because I got a couple of things to say. One is, I want to say that busy is a lie. Busy is an illusion. Busy is a self-delusion. Busy is a weird self-aggrandization. Is that a word? Because the corollary of busy is, oh, I don't have time because I'm so busy. I don't have time. time management is not about time. Everybody gets the same 24 hours.
That's the best say, yeah.
You don't have more or less time than anyone.
Right.
Right? Drop it. Drop the story that you are so busy. Everybody's busy. Of course we're busy. We're people in the world.
Yeah, I'm so guilty of that myself. And
Stop
I've learned,
saying it.
I know, I learned a while back, someone, it was like, that is not serving you in any way possible. There's no honor in being busy. There's no honor in that.
You do not get extra bonus points for busy.
Actually, you're saying, I'm weak. I'm weak.
I can't control my time.
I can't control my life.
I have no boundaries.
Yeah.
I'm at the whim of other people.
Yeah.
I allow myself to be steamrolled.
Right.
I can't keep my promises to myself. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. I was in a seminar one time and someone said, I couldn't make it on time. You couldn't, or you didn't want to. They made an extreme thing and said, what if your child was being held hostage and you had to be there at a certain time? Guess what? You'd make it. It's a priority. It's the priorities you put. And also you talk some about the hard conversations you have to have. I think the biggest one that I run into as I teach people right now, one of the biggest problems, especially since COVID, most people don't feel empowered to say no.
There's a whole little chapter in the book actually of like different ways to say no. And I really
share some of those for us.
I really encourage people to go through the whole list and read them out loud and just see how it sounds to say it. And everything from thank you so much for thinking of me, I'm not available.
Yeah.
Please ask me again next time. To, oh God, no, that sounds awful. To, I have a friend who, I swear this is what she does. You'll say, hey, Carol, could you do this big important favor, do this big horrible thing for me? And she'll go, you're so cute.
That's how she says no.
That's how she says no. Oh, you're so cute.
That's good.
Right. So there's a million ways to say no. I want to circle back to, I don't want to let this one slide too, because I think this is really important. You mentioned how, okay, so I get 15-minute method and I get all fired up. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do 15 minutes a day. It's going to be great. And you do it for a couple of days and then you fall off the wagon and then it's been a couple more days. And then you start to feel like, oh, I failed. And then it becomes something that sits on your shelf and doesn't actually have an impact on your life. And what I want to say is, this is an invitation for you to look at what you think of as failure. I'm not your mom. You're not getting graded on this 15 minutes. Literally no one cares if you do this 15 minutes or not.
Yeah.
I promise you, no one cares. Where's the failure?
Good.
Can we move from judgment to noticing rather than, oh, I wanted to do that and I didn't, so I'm terrible. I suck. Okay. Wow, I noticed I had a lot of enthusiasm and then I got distracted for a day or two. Interesting. Oh, I let myself get pulled off course a little bit. Look, life is not about doing everything perfectly. Right? Being a good parent is not about being perfect parent at every moment of every day. It's like sailing. We just want to keep the boat moving in generally the right direction most of the time.
Have the compass out.
Right. And how do we sail? We're tacking, right? We're going a little bit this way and a little bit that way. And a boat is almost never on course, right? It's going with the wind. Same, right? The final thing I have to say about this is, okay, so you promise yourself you're going to do it every day and you only do it 3 days. That's still 3 days more than you did last week.
Yeah.
Feel good about it. Yeah. And eventually what I find is that when people get into it, the body's a little bit of a pleasure-seeking mechanism. The minute you start to be like, oh, this is good. Oh, I feel good. Oh, I'm really like, oh, wow, hey, I can play that piece that I couldn't play 2 weeks ago. That's cool. Or, wow, that prayer and meditation practice is really calm. I found myself a lot calmer the other day dealing with Mr. Impossible at work. We all have one of those. And all of a sudden I was a lot less reactive. I think it's because of spiritual development. That's cool. And then we start to go, oh no, and then we start to become like, oh no, I can't do anything between 8 and 8:15 because that's my time.
Yeah. I think the most important piece, I love that, yeah, you've got 3 times in that you didn't before. But I want to go back to the previous one, just what we tell ourselves in that moment. We're telling ourselves, I'm bad, I'm wrong, I don't finish anything, or something like that. What I tell clients is, at that moment, give yourself some grace that you would give probably everyone else, but not yourself. And you're going to tell a story anyway. Tell an empowering one. One would be, wow, I noticed this. It only took me 3 days this time. Let's see if I can cut some off. It's going to happen again, but you know what? I'm going to learn from it and I can cut it down. And each step is a data point. It's something to learn. And I'm just going to get better and faster, like you were talking about. I can play that riff now. I can do something I couldn't do before. But you're going to tell a story. So why not tell an empowering story? My friend was telling me he heard it from Michael Singer. He was saying, what was it? I'll have to come back to it later. My brain just went.
I was using the analogy of parenting the other day. And as a person who was never able to have children, I am a parenting expert. I also don't have dogs, and I'm a dog training expert. So really, feel free to ask me anything.
That's great.
But I think in some ways, one of our jobs in life is to learn to become a good parent to ourselves, which means both being firm with ourselves when we need to, and saying, you know, that when you eat that much sugar, you don't feel good. You're like, okay, let's do better next time. And greeting our mistakes with grace. A lot of us, when we were children, our mistakes were not greeted with grace. Our mistakes were greeted with criticism, sometimes with debasement, sometimes with punishment. We were made to feel terrible. And so we grew up with this feeling like, I can't possibly make a mistake, or the world's going to come crashing in, because that's what happened, or the threat of that is what happened. And I'm sorry for those of us who grew up in that environment, and we're grown-ups now. We get to make our own decisions, and we get to say, oh, wow, I really let myself down there. Or I really let you down, or I really didn't do that the way that I wanted to. I'm sorry, and I'm going to do better next time. The one I hear most often from most people is how initially it just sounds just too simple. It just sounds dumb. Like, really, 15 minutes? Yeah. Like, I could get anything done in 15. Like, that's going to make a difference. Right. So there's this eagerness to dismiss it, which I totally get, because it does sound silly, but it's subversively simple. And what I know is, so I run a daily practicum every weekday at 12 noon Eastern. We hop on Zoom. It's a subscription thing. People pay whatever they pay to be there. We turn on the Zoom. Hello. Turn on the timer. Fine. 15 minutes later, timer goes off. Hello. And people look up at me with this post-orgasmic glow. They're just like, I did it. I wrote the novel for 50 minutes. Oh, I have this giant pile of paper and I cleared this much of it. I returned that phone call I've been putting off for 6 weeks.
Right.
I went through this much of my shoe cupboard and I got rid of 3 pairs of shoes. I sat and communed with my animal for 15 minutes. I gardened, I stretched, I like the depth of the joy and pleasure and a sense of accomplishment. It's completely disproportionate.
Yeah.
To the actual achievement.
I love that. Disproportionate. You're exactly.
It is. Yeah. It's exponential. And then it has this effect on your whole day, because then you spend all day being like, that's right. I'm awesome. Because I did the thing. Because I thought I was going to do the thing, and I did the thing. It's like when you work out in the morning and you're like, that's right. I worked out today. How are you?
It's funny. I hate the workout, but as soon as I'm done, I feel, okay, I'm already done. It's 5:30 in the morning. It's like, today I didn't get my workout in. And today I can feel my energy. I don't have that extra step, but again, I know I'll be there tomorrow.
That's right.
That's the other thing. It's always pick it up and go on, pick it up and go on.
Pick it up and go on. That's exactly right. And much like working out, we're not striving for perfection or workout.
Absolutely.
We're just trying to do it. We're just trying to keep the machinery functioning. Maintenance, And honestly, the things that people do amaze me, the things that people think of to do. And it's really about nurturing whatever your zone of genius is.
What's something maybe that you never would have thought of that someone does during that time that they've shared with you? Anything?
The one that's coming to mind is, I love, because how it stacks up. I had a client who had inherited her mother's house. She'd moved into her mother and helped her during her last years of her life, and then inherited the house, which was filled with her mother's stuff, which was a little overwhelming.
Absolutely.
So she started with the 15-minute things. She went into her mother's office, her mother's study, and started spending 15 minutes a day just going through the files and going through the papers and trying to get some order in there and get rid of, obviously, most of the stuff. And then she found her mother's albums. And so she started to put on the album. So now all of a sudden 15 minutes turns into half an hour, because that's about how long it takes to play this. For those of you who are young, albums are the way we used to listen to music. So now she's got half an hour. So she's listening to music, which she loves. She's going through her mother's stuff. And then she finds this box of stationery, which, again, children, is how people used to communicate with one another before texting.
That's good.
this beautiful stationery that they don't make it like that anymore, that beautiful paper. And now she starts writing a note every day to someone that she loves because she moved away to go be with her mom and lost touch with all her friends. So now she's 15 minutes clearing, 15 minutes writing a note to somebody. Now she's got a note. So she walks down to the mailbox and now she's meeting her neighbors and she knows her mail carrier and she's friends with the dog that lives at the catty corner here. And that like all of this like sort of cumulative effect of I'm going to spend 15 minutes sorting through my mother's old papers to this incredible blossoming. And now she's writing a book.
That's awesome. That's
Isn't
so
that great?
good. Yeah, but it's a ripple effect that comes through. I'm going to shift then because this seems perfect bridge. Micro blessings, what are they? And share some of yours.
Yeah, micro blessings. So there's a little bit of thing in the personal development world around gratitude lists, right? And an attitude of gratitude and all that, which I am 100% behind. I think that's terrific. But what I notice is that a little bit like values work, it can get a little generic. People say, oh, what are you grateful for? I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my la, 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 la. Yeah, of course you are. Of course you are. But are you feeling that inside of you? Do you feel that in your belly? Do you feel it in your heart? Every once in a while we do. I see my sister and I go, oh, I'm so grateful for you. It's not every day. But what I can do is over the course of every day to go, oh, I can feel the warmth of this tea coming through this mug and I can feel it on my hand. And I actually have an old injury on this hand. It actually feels really nice on this old scar. Just a little like that.
Right.
Just a little extra, in music, they have a fermato, right? This little extra emphasis on just a little bit of a moment.
Right.
And usually it's a sensory thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's a spiritual thing. So I'm just, I'm looking at the light, the sunlight as it glints off the leaves there in the bushes. I saw a bunny on the lawn the other day and burst into tears. A little bit of a fragile moment anyway. But I was like, look at the bunny. And there was just something so beautiful and sweet and bunny-like about his bunniness. And so that's what micro blessings are. And they are also can be, the reason I came up with micro blessings was as a counterpoint to microaggressions, which is something else that we've sort of has been entered the lexicon lately of the little ways that people pick at you or the little things that kind of undermine you or hurt you. And they're too little to say, hey, that hurt my feelings. Right. We feel like they're too little to say, hey, that hurt my feelings.
Right.
So as we fight that battle on that front, what can we do to counterweight that a little bit? And I feel like micro blessings are the way to do that.
I love that because it also gives me a step to take. If I found myself frustrated and I might be giving off that microaggression, you've just given me a step to do something. To actually counteract that. Because if I just think about it, nothing's going to happen. But if you give me a step, something to do, a behavior, a way to think, I like that. I'm going to zero in like with a microscope on the warmth of that tea, something I never would have thought of had I just been thinking in generalities rather than, wow, how's that comforting in this moment?
Yeah. And I think when we look back at some of the best times of our lives, some of the most precious moments of our lives, getting myself all emotional, it's very rarely these big moments, and those are great, but it's the little ones, right? It's that hug from that child. It's that holding the hand. It's that first moment with that person you really like when they like you too. And you're just, it's these little things that I think when we look back on our life, those are really the things we remember. This is silly, but as an actor, I'm always watching other actors on talk shows. And they say, oh my gosh, what was it like working with Martin Scorsese? Or what was it like filming this now classic piece of the American cinema? And the person always does oh, it was great. I learned this. But I'm here to tell you, when you're spending 3 months working on a project with people, I don't care how brilliant they are, it's work. And really, what do you remember about it? You remember the really good craft services. You remember that coffee was really great. You remember this one moment with this one person. We don't remember that it was epic because it wasn't epic. It was a day-to-day experience.
I was working on my lines. I was working on.
I was nervous about doing that stunt. I was
going through it over and over, and I'm not thinking about all of that thing. Everyone thinks, oh, it's a big party. It is.
Have a lot of fun.
It might be, but it's work. It's you get out there and you spend your time, and it's also stressful work because
Right.
there's so much rolling in those seconds each time. And yeah, it looks fun out here, but let's look behind the curtain a little. Yeah. Yeah. So, what would you like the audience to know about the book that will really drive home the message for them? I would like you to share how to get in touch with you as well, because my sister will put it up on all the social media, but I'd like to be able to have people just listen to you and be able to know how to get to you right now. So, walk
Yeah.
me through what you want people to get out of the book and how to contact you.
Great. Well, the easy one's how to contact me. I'm at therealsambennett.com, and I'm the real Sam Bennett on all the socials.
Okay.
My team keeps threatening to make the fake Sam Bennett, where it's basically me going, don't do anything. No one cares.
That's good.
In terms of the book, of course, the book is available in all the places you buy books.
Yeah.
It's available as a book. It's available as Kindle. It's available as an audiobook. I did the narration myself. I hear it sounds pretty good. However you like to consume books, wherever you like to buy them, that would be great. And I have to say, if you don't buy my book, buy someone's book. You have no idea how much every single book sale matters to the writers that you love.
Yeah.
And write a review, really. It matters so much. This is what writers do for each other. We buy each other's books, we review each other's books, but really it makes a huge difference. And in terms of what actions I would like to see people do, whether you buy the book or not, is really just start putting that 15 minutes on your calendar. And if you have the option, I would say do it before you check your email.
Yes.
Because we all know the minute that email is open, you're sunk.
Where your
Right?
fires live. Yeah. And you have to go
Where
put
your-
out fires. If you don't know they're there, yes, guess what? That fire really isn't going anywhere else.
The minute you open your email, you are handing your time in your agenda over to everybody else's agenda.
Sam,
Right?
I'm also going to suggest that if they do the 15 minutes, they're going to be better prepared to handle that fire than they would have been if they just remain in a stress state. They don't solve it. I believe the true creativity of how your mind is designed to work happens in those times of prep, relax, take care of yourself, all of that. But if we don't do that, we're just going to keep spinning our wheels.
If you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get what you've always gotten.
Yeah.
And if you're having that little attack of perfectionism, I don't know what I would do. I have a lot of ideas. I'm not sure. Great. So make a list of as many 15-minute activities as you can and pick one tomorrow and try it. If you like it, do it again. And if you don't, pick something else. Really, this is your time for you. You can't screw it up. You can't fail, and keep playing around until you find something that turns you on.
Yeah.
Because you turned on is a much better version of you.
Also let people know how to get a hold of you for your 15-minute daily is it something you do?
The daily practicum. Yeah, that you can find on therealsambennett.com. You can see it right there on the website, and you can try it for 5 days. It's an amazing community, and especially for ADD and ADHD people. They call it body doubling or parallel play. We're human animals, right? We're tribal animals. We are designed to live in a group, and feelings are contagious. We know this. If you're in a room and you start smiling at people, they'll start smiling back. They can't not. They almost can't not physically. On the other hand, if you're in a room and you start looking at your watch and acting impatient and irritable, everybody else is going to get impatient and irritable too.
Right.
So to get into a room in this world, it's a Zoom room, but of other people that they're waiting for you, you're part of this community. Mommy is watching, and you get that support. It's on your calendar.
Yeah,
it has a specific time. And it's incredibly effective. So yeah, especially for those who, like I said, have a little bit of the neurospicy, it can be really helpful.
I love that. And again, it gives them that community. I find so many things happen when you're in a group. Most people don't like it at first because they have the fear. When they experience it, the fear goes away. Fear always distorts your reality. So if you fear something, realize you don't have a clear view in the first place. So how can you make a real informed decision until you try it?
That's
Really.
right. And it's so low stakes. Again, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to see other people and what they do and what they don't. It's really delightful.
Great. Everyone, I want you to go out and really consider buying this book, not for yourself, maybe for someone else, but look at it for yourself as well. I think that I love to give books as gifts, but I also love to consume them and read them. So please support Sam and her vision. I think she's got a great one. Sam, thanks for being on the show today. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks. Everyone, thanks for being a part of this episode of A Shot of Inspiration. If you'll click below or subscribe, really help us out. Wish you the best. See you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks, Sam. Thanks for listening to this episode of A Shot of Inspiration. If you like this or any of our other episodes, make sure you rate it and share it with a friend. This is Greg Stevens, and we look forward to being with you next time. Until then, be bold, be courageous, and respectfully speak your truth.